Hello and welcome to ILTA webinar DM Processing Solutions on an Open Platform. My name is Brandy and I will be in the background answering any WebEx technical questions. If you experience technical difficulties joining the WebEx session, please dial 1-866-229-3239. Please note that as an attendee, you are part of a larger audience today. However, due to privacy concerns, the attendee list is not displayed. Today's presentation will be in listen-only mode. We will be holding a Q&A session at the conclusion of today's presentation, and you may ask an online question anytime throughout the presentation today by simply clicking on that question mark icon located on the floating toolbar at the top of your screen. Please type in your question and then click Submit, and please keep the send to default as all panelists. With that, we invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy today's presentation. I would now like to introduce your presenter for today, Kevin Dorr, Alfresco Senior Solutions. Kevin, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Brandy. I'm, as Brandy just said, Kevin Dorr from Alfresco. I'm going to give you a brief overview of what Alfresco is and what we do, and then some of the folks from MicroStrategies will talk about their solution that's built on top of Alfresco. So at Alfresco, basically what we do is we manage content, and we're very proud of being able to manage your important content. As you can see on the slide here, there's a picture of Martin Luther King, and there should be a picture of the New York Philharmonic, but for some reason that doesn't seem to be showing up on your slide. However, we have set up content management software systems that manage content for the Martin Luther King Center, which is one of the applications that MicroStrategies wrote, as well as for the New York Philharmonic, which is another very important source of historical information. So really important organizations trust us to manage their content, and so that we take that very seriously, and we hope that you would trust us to manage yours as well. Alfresco is a cloud-connected platform. It basically allows you to manage business-critical content, which is the content that you need to run your business. And so when we say cloud-connected, what we mean by that is that we have an on-premise content server that allows you to store your content locally at your company, and you can also connect it to a cloud-based application and share it out to other companies that you collaborate with. So that's one of the very unique features of Alfresco at the current time, because there aren't a lot of other companies that are capable of doing that type of thing. In addition, we are tablet connected. We think that tablets are a very important component of the workplace in the 2010s now. And so we allow you to access your content both on-premise and in the cloud using mobile devices and tablets. And we also have an open standard that allows you to extend your content into other places that you would like to customize. Alfresco has been a very successful business story. You can see at the bottom here our revenue growth has gone up every quarter pretty much over the life of our company. We are an open source content management company, which means that we collaborate with a wide number of people to develop our code, and the code is actually available on the Internet. In addition, we have a large number of enterprises that are using Alfresco and pay for it, and as you can see here, 70% of those customers are paid customers. We also have a very active community that helps us to develop the software, as I just mentioned. That's what the open source part of it is. So here are some of our enterprise customers. As you can see, there's a lot of very large and important customers there. We're used in a large number of companies that have over 10,000 people. As you can see, we have 70% of our customers have more than 10,000 people. And we have a large global store of companies, essentially, that we operate with. So here are some of the ways that people use Alfresco and some of the things that you can use Alfresco for. So there's a large amount of different types of content that you can store in Alfresco. You can put documents in Alfresco. You can put images in Alfresco. And as I said, you can use the cloud-based portion of Alfresco to collaborate with other companies that you might be doing business with or having to share content with through the cloud. In addition, we have records management capabilities which allow you to retain documents for legal purposes and set up disposition schedules so that you know when they are no longer valid. Here's another view of our core product, Alfresco Enterprise 4, which is the on-premise version of Alfresco. It's got a built-in user interface, and one of the things that's really interesting about Alfresco is that you can take our built-in user interface and extend it, or you can use it as a sort of just a back-end store and build applications that interface directly to it. And I think MicroStrategies will show you some ways that they have customized it. Basically, the way that Alfresco operates in terms of working with its partners is that we provide sort of a base-level platform that's very usable and very fully functional. But when you have specialized applications that you need to perform, we have partners that actually layer software on top of our application, and that's what MicroStrategies do. Once again, we have a cloud-based application. The cloud-based application is based on the on-premise Alfresco Enterprise version. So we have our own software as a solution application that you can register for and create your own domain in the cloud. The user interface of it is exactly the same as the on-premise interface. And as I said, it's very good for B2B collaboration and that type of thing. In addition, we have a mobile application that provides secure access to Alfresco, and that's sort of a point to emphasize for you folks listening, I believe, is that there aren't a lot of applications that actually provide secure access to cloud-based and on-premise-based applications through mobile devices. And if you have sensitive content, like legal documents, for example, it's very important that you keep secure control over that. So I think MicroStrategies will also talk some about that as well. In addition, you're able to extend our mobile application so that you can have a user experience that is similar to what your people are used to using on-premise. Finally, here's a large slide that shows all of the different types of applications that we integrate with. So as you can see, there's a lot of different back-end corporate type of systems that we use, and we also integrate directly with social media channels. So if you have a need to publish content out to YouTube or Flickr or even to LinkedIn, that type of thing, you can do that directly from Alfresco if you want to. And we integrate with most of the modern types of web service providers like Google Docs as well. So that's a brief introduction to Alfresco. We'll take some questions on Alfresco if you have any at the end. And please feel free to contact us at any of these addresses here. And now I will pass the baton over to Jason Jolly from MicroStrategies.
I would now like to introduce Jason Jolly, Director of Application Development with MicroStrategies. Jason, you now have the floor.
Great. Thank you, Brandy. I'm Jason Jolly. I've been at MicroStrategies for about 7 years. I've been working with content management for probably closer to 15 years, a lot of that in the legal space. So at the end of the call, if you'd like to ask some questions about how content management and legal fit together, you probably already have a lot of thoughts on that. but I'll be more than happy to dive into that. So MicroStrategies has actually been around since 1983. So we've got just over 100 people, a number of different office spaces with a couple of large solution centers that we have in the New York metro and Philadelphia metro areas. And these solution centers are important for us in that they're spaces where people can come and try out different solutions and try out different hardware and get a feel for what's going to happen with their project. But also it gives them a way to see what other people have done and other kinds of solutions. We have a lot of advanced infrastructure, everything from setting up very, very large server infrastructure for large companies to doing solutions for tens of thousands of people companies or 20 people companies. So we kind of run the gamut when it comes to that. We're an Alfresco Platinum Partner. We won the Implementation of the Year Award for 2012 for the MLK, Martin Luther King Archive site. And we're also an IBM Premier Partner and a Microsoft Gold Partner. Just to start off, before we get too far into the details, we just have a couple polls to go through. Just out of curiosity, how many of your users are currently storing documents in the cloud? Are your users currently doing that? And you should see a little poll show up on your screen where you can answer yes or no. We've been curious about this because in the legal space we haven't seen a lot of cloud adoption yet, but we have seen a lot of questions on the cloud. So we know it's an emerging space and that there is a lot of interest in it. It's just the adoption is kind of just at the very beginning. So the next poll that we have is about if you're using the cloud, what types of things are you using the cloud for? What solutions are you using? Box.net, Dropbox, Skydive, other things like that. And we've seen a lot of people just investigating these tools, playing with them, not necessarily using them for core business critical applications, but just experimenting with them. So that's another thing we're curious about, how people are experimenting with them. And if you'd like to talk about cloud-based solutions, like Alfresco's in particular, at the end of the call, then we'd love to spend some time on that. Okay. So let's get into the content of the presentation. What we're talking about today is the processing of documents, or DM processing, especially in particular when it comes to legal firms or corporate legal departments. The first thing I'm talking about is paper documents. So oftentimes at a firm, you have paper documents come in, whether typically through the mail, and those documents, to make them electronic, get scanned, and then they get put into a repository or a shared drive. The solution that we're talking about is to help automate it so that we can get almost the idea of a paperless law firm, but the idea that paper can get into a repository, into Alfresco, and be easily searchable. To do that, we have a tool called the MSI Profiler. And what this allows us to do is when paper documents come in and they get scanned, it allows a user, typically somebody in the mailroom, to tag these documents so they can get as much information on them as possible, as easily as possible. And then they can be tagged some more by business users who have a better knowledge of the content and want to add that extra bit of information. But the whole goal is to make it as easy as possible. So we have this interface where the scanned document actually shows up, so somebody can look through the different pages. On the left-hand side, there's a filter, and that filter, we typically put document origin. It could be a number of different things. So this could say email, fax, scan. It could also say Office 1, Office 2, or even just Scanner 1, Scanner 2. It really allows the operators to have a choice to be able to whittle down the scope of what they're processing. Then we have a list of document classifications, which again is dynamic and can be customizable. And this, sometimes it's pretty easy to see, even in the mailroom, if this content is an invoice or it's something different. It's matter related, if there's a matter ID on it. And if there is, it can be categorized appropriately. If it happens to be a matter-related document, we can specify the client matter ID if there is a client matter ID. And that can actually be a lookup into your existing system. So if you have some kind of docking database, PC law, anything like that, we can hook into that to get the matter information. The value of this is just by putting in the ID information, whether it's a combo client matter or just a matter, that can get up all the rest of the information associated with the matter. The benefit of that is when the document's in Alfresco, you can search on any bit of that information and find the content, even though the user didn't have to type it all in. And then there's a lot of additional types of metadata fields. This is completely dynamic. We can have it very configurable for any environment. Doc type and subtype are some of the most common ones that we see, kind of like a doc class, subclass concept. We also have an array of buttons there for being able to save the information you're working on so you don't have to process it if you don't want to. We can notify other people that this document came in just by clicking with the icons with the little people on it. We can email it out to third parties right away. We can put comments on it. We can also, if we're going through a series of these, hit a button called Same as Previous, which allows us to easily enter the data on multiple documents without having to retype it. If we scroll down on that page, we'd see this Next Queue section. The Next Queue section is really, it's like a workflow engine, the starting point, but it's really, if you know the matter ID and somebody types in the matter ID, we may already know from a system that you have who the supervising attorney is on it, or who the first associate is, who's responsible for that case. If that's true and we can get that data, we can pre-select the next queue so that we know who it's going to next. The other benefit is that you could have somebody just choose these kinds of documents always go to supervising attorney, and that's the internal routing rules. That can be selected. We'll know from the database who that supervising attorney is and be able to process it to go to that person. So that's kind of what the profiler is all about. It's really about that incoming document flow, typically with the paper documents, but can also be used for other types of documents as well. For emails, incoming emails, while we can have that go in and go through the profiler, we can also do a direct Outlook integration, which allows us to save the documents from Outlook and profile them with the metadata the same kind of way. So within the message or within our inbox by selecting multiple emails, we can actually select them and then put the metadata in the same way we did that profiler screen. We can put a client matter ID. The key thing to notice here, too, is there's a little plus sign underneath matter ID. What that means is we can actually apply multiple matters to the same document. The benefit of that is it's rare to have systems that can do that, but we can actually have it look like the document lives in those 2 or 3 matters as well. So we can have the document kind of be stored in the first matter and be linked to 4 or 5 or 6 other matters if we wanted to. And depending on the kind of legal group you have, that can be beneficial, especially if it's with regard to IP law when you have things filed across different countries. But we do find it can be quite useful even with litigation. We'll also see the email attachments panel here. Right now, everything here is in green. And the reason for this is we deal with deduplication in this Outlook dialog. If something were to show up here and it's already in the repository, it would be highlighted red, and you could choose not to save it at the same time. So the benefit of that is we could have attachments that kind of come in and go out, so basically sent outside of the firm to a third party and then sent back in. And the user saving it would actually recognize the documents in there, and it could create a minor version of that document if we wanted to, or just create a brand new document. And either case is fine. But it really does help prevent duplication in the repository and allow for versioning of the same content that gets passed around to turnaround documents. Okay, so if we move on to the next step, we talked about the Office integration or the Outlook integration. We also have an Office integration, and the goal here is the same kind of thing. From within Office, we can actually see a screen. This is the Save to Alfresco screen, where we can navigate through our matter. We can do a lookup for client matter or just matter, whatever the key lookup fields are, and navigate that folder structure from within that area, within that matter or case, and then apply metadata as we see fit. Now, all the metadata could be defaulted. You could just have to pick the folder, and it could default the client matter ID, doc type, subtype, etc., or we could manually enter it, and in either case is fine. And that's with all the standard Office products. And next we have the idea of external systems, like the fax server or external servers. This is the idea that we have things that come in from other places. Maybe it's an inbound email box that's just automated faxes coming in. These can go into drop zones, which basically get hooked right into Alfresco. You can easily actually email directly into the repository or into a drop zone area, and we can actually have them funnel through the profiler as well. So not just the scanned documents, but also the electronic documents that come in from a document capture standpoint can also be put into that same workflow and be processed in the same kind of way. And at the end, all of these things are going into the Alfresco repository. Okay, So we actually have another poll here, and the question is, do you currently have a policy for mobile access to your content? We talked a bit about the cloud. We're seeing mobile actually really taking hold in a lot of firms now, and that I think it is getting more widely adopted. The challenge we're seeing is that it's not necessarily adopted with current systems, even though there is definitely a big market for that. So I think we've seen a lot of activity with that, whereas the cloud is kind of the new thing. That mobile devices seem to be the hot thing right now, and that people are really looking for ways to do that, which is one of the reasons why having the Alfresco app is so nice to have. It's so full-featured that you can actually do all the work that you need to do directly from it. So when we're talking about this document process flow, we also consider what happens when it comes to tablets. And the Alfresco app works on the major vendors for tablets, so you can actually input data from there if you wanted to. We've actually seen people take pictures of content from tablets and import it into Alfresco that way. There's also things like Rico's mobile device, which can hook into Alfresco as well. It's more like an e-paper solution. But the benefit of the tablets is one from the intake, but we probably see it more from the consumption, and that if you have a tablet and you're even working on a case in court, you can literally do a search with the tablet and actually get access to content. And we see that being incredibly valuable. Now, from a process management standpoint, we have all this type of content going into the repository. We have incoming emails, paper documents, faxes, Office documents, Outlook documents. Now, one of the things we find is important is how do we understand what's being processed? And this is where we could start talking about document processing dashboards. So if I want to understand these documents are coming in, what documents do I have to care about and what do I not have to care about? And here's an example of an incoming documents dashboard. And what this is doing is showing by case or by matter, and I've designated these as matters of interest, things that I want to watch and be notified on. I can see a list of the things that have come in recently. And there's some color coding here. And the color coding is just to give you a level of importance for what you have to look at. Things that are red are actually assigned to you personally, so you'd want to act on those. And clicking on them will just open up that profiler screen we saw before. Gold documents are things that are assigned to maybe a role that you're in or a group. So that it could be any number of people who have to grab it, and the first person grabs it kind of takes care of it. And the blue documents are for the matters of interest, which are just things these are documents that showed up recently for this matter. I'm curious what's happening with this matter. I'm watching this matter, so I can actually see the activity that's coming in through this. I can also look at the comments for it and the document history, the little icons that show up there. It can show me everything that's happened with this document since it's arrived in the repository. And we are doing full audit tracking, so we can actually audit all events in the repository and know if people are acting on the documents. And from a productivity standpoint, we don't see a lot of productivity dashboards being used within the legal space necessarily. We'd see more of the document processing. But sometimes we do see in a law firm or in a corporate legal department the desire to be able to see those kind of dashboards. Most times what we see is we want a very good, robust search utility and something that we can actually navigate through and get results from. So here's an example of a search utility which has both a simple search where you can, if you just have a matter ID, you can type it in and it'll bring up the documents for it. You could search the full text content of all the documents, and that's all available within Alfresco. Or you could search on all the metadata or a combination of both, and that's fine. Or you could have a very verbose search where you can literally search on any property or attribute that you're tracking. The benefit of this as well is this can be hooked into whatever database or system you have for tracking your matters. And that's usually a pretty easy thing to synchronize and hook into. And when we do that search and have any combination of those fields filled in, we can get a search results. We can configure the columns we want to see. But one of the important things is we can actually do some exports if we wanted to. So we could take a look and export to Excel the list of all those documents that showed up from the search. We can also export the PDF. And the Excel export and the PDF export, we find it's pretty powerful. The Excel export is just a list of the documents. The PDF export is actually putting together all of those documents and seeing them put together into one. And we often talk about that like it's a case file, that people want to just grab all these documents and grab one PDF that they can run with. And that's an easy way to do that. So that's pretty much all the content that we had that we wanted to walk through.